What would you do if your own family made your daughter feel like a guest in her own home? When the wedding invitation arrived, I was standing at the kitchen counter, sorting through a week's worth of mail. Bills, catalogs, a coupon for gutter cleaning, and then there it was. Heavy, glossy, with gold trim, and my name written in Brittany's careful script. My younger sister always did have a flair for the dramatic, even in her stationery. I felt a flicker of anticipation, maybe even hope, as I slid my finger under the envelope seal. For a moment, I imagined Lily and me at the wedding, her in a dress she'd spent hours picking out, her hair up or down. She hadn't decided yet, her face bright with the kind of excitement I'd always wanted for her. But as I unfolded the invitation and scanned the details, my heart dropped. There, in bold at the bottom, it read, "Adults only. 18 plus, strictly enforced. No exceptions." I read it again, just to be sure. My hand started to tremble, and I pressed my palm flat against the countertop, steadying myself. Lily was at the table, hunched over her homework, her pencil tapping out a quiet rhythm. She looked up, sensing the shift in the room, and asked, "Is it here?" I nodded, trying to keep my voice even as I said, "Yes, it's here." She smiled, that hopeful, nervous smile she always wore when she wanted to believe the best. I handed her the envelope, and she turned it over in her hands, studying the gold trim, the weight of it. "What does it say?" she asked, and I hesitated, searching for the right words. "It's an adults-only wedding," I said finally. 18 and over. She was silent for a moment, her eyes fixed on the invitation. Then she looked at me, her voice flat and tired. "She doesn't want me there." I wanted to argue, to tell her it wasn't true, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I just shook my head and said, "It's the rule." That's all. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't just a rule. I could see the disappointment settle over her, quiet and heavy, the way it always did when she was reminded, again, that she was different, that she didn't quite fit. My name is Charlotte Miller, and I have been Lily's mother since she was 3 years old. I made her a promise, the first night she came to live with us, that she would never feel unwanted in my family again. I thought I was doing okay with that promise, until now. I watched her tuck the invitation back into the envelope, her hands careful, almost reverent, as if she was afraid of damaging something precious. She didn't cry. She never does. She just went back to her homework, her pencil moving a little slower than before. I stood there, the invitation heavy in my hand, and realized I had a choice. I could call Brittany, beg for an exception, try to reason with her, or I could do what I'd promised Lily all those years ago. I could choose her. So I did. I walked over to my laptop, opened the RSVP link, and clicked not attending. No explanation. No drama. Just no. And that was it. As I closed the RSVP tab, the silence in the kitchen pressed in around me. I watched Lily, her head bent over her notebook, and felt the ache of old promises and new disappointments settle in my chest. This moment, this quiet, heavy moment, wasn't just about a wedding. It was about every small hurt that had come before, every time Lily had been made to feel like a guest in her own family. I could see it all so clearly now, as if the invitation had thrown a spotlight on every memory I'd tried to smooth over or explain away. My name is Charlotte Miller, and I have been Lily's mother for 14 years. I remember the first time I saw her, standing in the doorway of our home, clutching a stuffed rabbit with one ear half chewed. She had these big, quiet eyes that seemed to take in everything, the color of the walls, the sound of my voice, the way I smiled at her. She didn't speak much at first. She just watched, as if she was still deciding whether the world was a safe place. I wanted so badly to be that safe place for her. I promised myself, and her, that she would never feel unwanted again. But families are complicated, and love doesn't always come easy. I tried to make Lily feel at home, to fold her into every tradition, every holiday, every birthday. I thought if I just loved her enough, everyone else would follow. Sometimes, it almost worked. The first time she called me Mom, I cried alone in the car after preschool drop-off, overwhelmed by the weight of that word and what it meant to both of us. I kept every drawing she made, every note she wrote, tucked away in a box in my closet. I wanted her to know she belonged. Still, there were moments, small, sharp moments, that reminded me how fragile that belonging could be. Like the Easter when every grandchild had a basket with their name on it, except for Lily. Hers just said, Happy Spring in bright, generic letters. She didn't say anything, just smiled politely and held the basket in her lap. Or the time she drew a picture of our family, me, her, and Eric, and gave it to my mother. My mom thanked her, placed it on the table, and later, when Lily asked why it wasn't on the fridge with her cousin's drawings, I didn't have an answer. I kept hoping it was just an oversight, that my family was still adjusting, that if I explained enough times or smiled enough or stayed patient enough, they'd come around. But the signs kept piling up. When Lily was 6, she told my dad she wanted to be an artist. He chuckled and said, You'll need to think about something more practical. When she was 8 and wanted to help plan a family party, Brittany told her, That's cute, but maybe let the adults handle it. It was never loud or cruel, just quiet, constant, and dismissive. Now, standing in the kitchen with that invitation in my hand, I realized how much those moments had shaped us. I had spent years trying to fix things by including my family in Lily's life, but the more I tried, the clearer it became. They never fully accepted that Lily was here to stay. And I was done pretending otherwise. The days after I clicked, not attending, passed in a strange, suspended quiet. I kept waiting for the world to shift, for someone to call and demand an explanation, but for a while, there was only silence. I tried to focus on the ordinary, work, laundry, the rhythm of our small routines, but the weight of that decision lingered in the air, thick and unspoken. I watched Lily more closely than usual, searching for signs of regret or sadness, but she moved through her days with the same careful grace, as if she'd already learned not to expect too much. Then, inevitably, the silence broke. My phone lit up with a message from Brittany. Hey, just saw your RSVP. Is everything okay? I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the keyboard, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. A few hours later, another message. If this is about the age thing, I hope you understand we're being super consistent with everyone. Nothing personal, right? I almost laughed at that. Nothing personal, as if Lily were just another distant cousin or a coworker's kid, not her niece, not my daughter. I set the phone down and walked away. But the messages kept coming, each one a little sharper than the last. Melissa chimed in on the family group chat. Can't believe you're making such a big deal over one rule. You always have to cause drama. Then Brittany again, this time more insistent. This isn't about Lily, you're making it about her. And finally, my mother, with a long paragraph about forgiveness and family unity and how hard it is to be in the middle. I read them all, my chest tightening with every word, but I didn't reply. I couldn't, not without betraying everything I'd promised Lily. Lily noticed the tension, of course. She always does. She stopped asking about the wedding, stopped looking at dresses online, and one evening I watched her quietly delete the photos she'd saved to her phone. She didn't cry or complain. She just erased them, one by one, as if they no longer mattered. That hurt more than any message from my family. It was the quiet acceptance, the way she seemed unsurprised. That broke me. She had already learned what I had spent too long trying not to see. They never truly saw her, and deep down she knew it. Eric tried to help, in his gentle way. He made her favorite dinner, suggested a movie night, but Lily just smiled and said she was tired. Later, as I tucked her in, she asked, Is it because I'm adopted? The question was soft, almost casual, but it landed like a stone in my chest. I told her, no, absolutely not. But I knew what she meant. I knew exactly what she meant. The group chat kept buzzing, the calls kept coming, but I stayed silent. I wasn't going to argue or beg or try to smooth things over. For the first time, I realized that keeping the peace had always come at Lily's expense. And I was done with that. I was done asking my daughter to shrink herself so others could feel comfortable. This time, I was choosing her no matter the cost. The group chat was relentless, each message a fresh reminder of how little my family understood. I ignored the notifications, but the phone kept buzzing, vibrating on the kitchen counter like a persistent, angry wasp. I could feel the pressure building, the old urge to smooth things over, to apologize for making things uncomfortable. But I held my ground, even as the guilt crept in around the edges. I reminded myself, again and again, that this wasn't about a single night or a single rule. This was about Lily, about every time she'd been made to feel like an afterthought. It was my mother who finally broke the standoff. She never called unless something was wrong, so when her name flashed on my screen, I felt a familiar sinking in my stomach. I answered, bracing myself. "Charlotte," she said, her voice tight. "I heard you're not going to the wedding. Is this really about the age limit?" I took a breath, steadying myself. "Lily wasn't invited," I said quietly. "I'm not going without her. She's almost 18. There was a pause, the kind that stretches out and fills a room. "It's not like she's a little kid. She's family," my mother said finally, as if that settled anything. I waited, hoping for some acknowledgement, some apology, but none came. Instead, she added, "Don't punish your sister over this. It's one night." I felt the old frustration rise up, but I kept my voice calm. "We're not going," I said, and hung up before she could say anything else. That should have been the end of it, but of course it wasn't. The group chat exploded. "Melissa, you always have to make everything about you. Can't you just let it go for once? Brittany, this isn't about Lily, you're making it about her. You're ruining my wedding over nothing." My mother, with a long, rambling message about forgiveness and family unity, about how hard it is to be in the middle, about how I should think of everyone else for a change. I read every word, feeling the old, familiar guilt twist inside me, but I didn't reply. I couldn't, not without betraying Lily, not without betraying myself. Meanwhile, Lily grew quieter. She stopped talking about the wedding, stopped asking about hairstyles or decorations. She deleted the dress photos from her phone, erased the Pinterest board she'd made, and when I asked if she wanted to do something special that weekend, she just shrugged. "It's fine, Mom," she said, her voice flat. I didn't really want to go anyway, but I knew she was lying. I could see it in the way she avoided my eyes, in the way she lingered in her room, sketching in her notebook for hours. Eric tried to fill the silence, suggesting movie nights and baking cookies, but Lily just smiled politely and said she was tired. I watched her, feeling helpless, knowing that no amount of comfort food or distraction could erase the hurt. The worst part was how unsurprised she seemed, how easily she accepted her own exclusion. It was as if she'd been waiting for it, as if she'd always known that, when it really mattered, she wouldn't be chosen. The wedding day came and went. We spent it quietly at home, just the three of us. I made Lily's favorite breakfast, and Eric brought home flowers, but there was a heaviness in the air that none of us could shake. I kept thinking about my mother's words, "It's one night," and how wrong she was. It wasn't just one night. It was every night, every holiday, every moment Lily had been made to feel like a guest in her own family. After the wedding, no one called. No one apologized. It was as if they expected everything to go back to normal, as if Lily's absence was a minor hiccup, not a deep wound. But I couldn't go back. I wouldn't. For the first time, I saw my family's version of unity for what it was, a demand for silence, for shrinking, for pretending nothing was wrong. And I was done pretending. I was done asking Lily to make herself small, so others could feel comfortable. I was done being the peacekeeper at the expense of my daughter's dignity. My name is Charlotte Miller, and I was finally ready to choose my daughter, no matter what it cost. After the wedding passed in silence, I found myself standing at the edge of a new kind of emptiness. The old patterns, apologizing, smoothing things over, inviting everyone back in, were gone, and in their place was a quiet I didn't quite know how to fill. 4 years, I'd been the one who held a family together, the one who hosted every holiday, who made sure there were enough chairs, enough food, enough warmth to go around. But now, with the group chat silent and the phone calls gone, I realized how much of that work had been about keeping the peace, not about real connection. I was determined not to go back. December crept in, cold and bright, and with it came the usual questions from Eric. Should I order the extra chairs? Do you want me to get the folding table from the garage? I shook my head. No extra seats this year, I said, my voice steady. He didn't ask why. He just nodded, understanding in his eyes. Lily didn't ask either. She moved through the days quietly, but I could see a new kind of relief in her, a loosening of the tension she always carried around my family. For the first time, she didn't have to wonder if she'd be included, if she'd be made to feel like a guest in her own home. The messages started rolling in mid-December. "Melissa, Hey, are we still doing Christmas Eve dinner at your place? Let me know what I should bring. Brittany, of course. We'll be 5 again. Let me know if Lily wants anything special this year. If she's even going to be there this time. That one almost got me. If she's even going to be there this time. As if Lily had chosen to miss the wedding. As if her absence had been some dramatic teenage tantrum instead of a deliberate exclusion. I didn't reply. Not to that, not to any of it. For the first time in years, I didn't scrub the floors or decorate the mantel or stock up on wine. I didn't perform. I didn't pretend. When the calls started, first my mother, then Melissa, then Brittany, I let them ring. Eventually, my father left a voicemail. Charlotte, we just want to know what's going on. Your mother's upset. It's not too late to do the right thing. The right thing. As if the right thing was welcoming people who had excluded my daughter, as if feeding them dinner would erase the pain they never acknowledged. So no, we didn't host anyone that Christmas. Instead, we made lasagna in our pajamas. Lily baked sugar cookies in strange little shapes that barely held together, and Eric made hot chocolate with extra whipped cream. We watched movies, we laughed, we opened presents early. No one walked on eggshells. No one translated passive-aggressive comments. No one fell silent when Lily entered the room. It was quiet, peaceful, whole. That's when I realized something I should have seen years ago. All this time, I'd mistaken tradition for love. I'd confused obligation with connection. I thought that hosting meant I mattered, that being the one who held everything together made me part of something. But that Christmas, without the noise and the pretending and the weight of forced togetherness, I saw it clearly. Peace isn't quiet because nothing is wrong. It's quiet because nothing's being ignored. Lily seemed lighter, too. She wore her favorite pajamas all day, her hair a mess, her face open and relaxed. She didn't have to perform, didn't have to wonder if she was wanted. She belonged, simply and completely, in the small circle we'd made for ourselves. Eric caught my eye over the dinner table, and I knew he felt it too, the relief, the rightness of it. We didn't need the old traditions. We needed each other. And in that quiet rebellion, in those new, gentle rituals, we found something better than peace. We found home. The days after Christmas felt different, lighter, somehow, as if the air in our house had finally cleared. There was no rush to clean up for guests, no anxious checking of my phone for last-minute family demands. Instead, there was just the gentle rhythm of our own small routines. Eric reading in the living room, Lily curled up on the couch with her sketchbook, me folding laundry in the quiet. It was in this new, peaceful space that the real questions began to surface, the ones I'd spent years trying to keep at bay with busyness and tradition. One afternoon, a few days after Christmas, I found Lily on the couch, her favorite blanket wrapped around her shoulders, pencil hovering over a half-finished drawing. She always drew when she needed to process something, people, feelings, moments too big for words. I sat nearby, folding towels, content just to be in the same room. The silence between us was comfortable, filled with the soft sounds of the house settling and the scratch of her pencil on paper. Without looking up, Lily asked, "If I wasn't adopted, do you think they'd like me more?" The question landed with a quiet finality, heavier than any argument or accusation. My hand stilled, a towel half folded in my lap. I wanted to tell her it wasn't true, that my family's coldness had nothing to do with her, but I knew she deserved more than easy reassurances. She deserved the truth. I set the towel aside and moved to sit beside her, close enough that our shoulders touched. "Sweetheart," I said gently, "they might have pretended better. But the way they treat people who aren't like them, that was never about you." She looked at me then, her eyes serious and searching, the same way she had when she first came to live with us. I could see the weight of years in her gaze, the quiet wisdom of someone who's learned to read between the lines. "I don't think I want them to like me anymore," she said. Her voice was calm, not bitter or angry, just certain. It was a choice, a boundary drawn not out of spite but out of self-respect. I felt something shift inside me, a loosening, a letting go of the old hope that if I just tried hard enough, my family would change. I realized I'd spent so long waiting for an apology, for some sign that they saw Lily the way I did, that I'd forgotten what really mattered, that Lily saw herself, and that I saw her, fully and without condition. That night, after Lily went to bed, I sat with Eric in the quiet living room. I told him about Lily's question, about her answer, about how proud I was of her for choosing herself. He listened, his hand warm in mine, and said, "She's strong, Charlotte. She learned that from you." I wanted to believe him. Maybe, in some small way, it was true. In the days that followed, the silence from my family grew louder. My father called again, but I let it go to voicemail. He texted instead, "Your mother isn't sleeping. She feels like she's lost you. We know we messed up, but that doesn't justify shutting everyone out. That's not who you are." I stared at the message for a long time, feeling the old guilt tug at me. For years, I'd wondered if I was being too harsh, too sensitive, too cold. But now, sitting in the quiet of my own home, I realized this was who I was. Someone who finally understood what she would and wouldn't tolerate. Someone who knew that keeping peace at the expense of her child's dignity wasn't love. It was fear, dressed up as loyalty. I was done being afraid. I was done waiting for permission to protect my daughter. And as the new year approached, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Pride, not just in Lily, but in myself, for finally choosing the right side of the line. The new year arrived without fanfare. No countdown, no clinking glasses, just the three of us gathered around the fireplace, a board game spread out on the rug. Lily laughed at Eric's terrible attempt to draw a cat, and I found myself laughing too, the sound bright and unburdened. There was no tension, no eggshells, no need to translate the silence. For the first time in years, I felt the weight of expectation lift from my shoulders, replaced by something softer and steadier relief. In the quiet that followed, I realized how much I'd been waiting for the next text, the next dig, the next awkward dinner where Lily would be overlooked. I'd spent so long trying to balance everyone's feelings, to keep the peace at any cost, that I'd forgotten what peace actually felt like. It wasn't the absence of conflict, but the presence of acceptance. It was the freedom to let my daughter take up space, to let her laughter fill the room without apology. Looking back, I could see all the moments when I could have spoken up sooner, drawn a line earlier, but I understood now that healing doesn't always come with a grand gesture. Sometimes it comes with one small change, like saying no, like not setting out extra chairs, like letting the silence speak for itself. I thought about Lily's question, "Do you think they'd like me more if I wasn't adopted?" And her answer, so clear and calm, "I don't think I want them to like me anymore." That wasn't bitterness. That was clarity. That was her learning the most important lesson I could teach her, that love isn't supposed to hurt, that it doesn't ask you to earn your place, that it doesn't disappear when you make people uncomfortable by simply existing. So as the fire crackled and the board game pieces scattered, I let myself settle into the quiet. I wasn't waiting anymore, not for apologies, not for understanding, not for permission to choose my own family. I was simply living with the people who saw me, who saw Lily, who chose us back. My name is Charlotte Miller, and I am not the keeper of family traditions or the peace negotiator. I am Lily's mom, and that, finally, is enough.